Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. I am live. I am live. Good morning, I am live. I'm Ramona Phillips, your healthy mind strategist. Welcome to Get It Right. Welcome to Get It Right. On my show, we are going to defeat the mindsets that come from trauma, those past experiences, those survival mindsets. Welcome, Andrea. We're going to conquer. We're going to thank you so much for sharing. We're going to deal with those survival mindsets that come from trauma, that come from our past experiences, that come from growing up in dysfunction, or it's just seeing a lot of dysfunction in this dysfunctional world. Please keep them hearts coming. Keep those hearts coming. I heard that Periscope somehow counts the hearts or something like that. So from time to time, just keep those hearts coming. Thank you, sweetie pie. I love seeing your smile down there, that big smile. I love seeing your smile. So today, one of the things I like to do, or I'm going to do, I did it last week, is I'm going to read. So what is trauma? Because some people, we live our lives, we go from day to day in our survival mindsets, right? And we don't even realize that we're just walking around in our survival mindsets instead of living in the moment and trusting God in the moment and just being teachable, right? So I'm going to read, what is trauma? What is trauma? It's deeply distressing or disturbing experiences for example, losing someone is trauma. We've all lost someone. TraumaDefeated.com, that's my website, guys. We've all lost someone close to us. And these things usually, very rarely are we prepared for these things. Also, sometimes physical damage or accidents, sometimes sickness or disease just is part of trauma as well, depending on the severity of the sickness or disease. The word trauma is used to describe experiences or situations that are emotional, painful, and distressing, that overwhelm people's ability to sometimes even cope. Those are the times when we get caught up in depression. In depression and things like that, and oppression, and sometimes we need medication, antidepressants, and things like that. And because we feel powerless, a lot of times we've been through these traumatic experiences and we feel powerless. It doesn't mean we are powerless, but if we feel powerless, then we are whatever we think, or we are whatever we say about ourselves. If I say I'm powerless, then I'm not going to act like I have power, right? Trauma can also cause mental disabilities. That's what I'm talking about now, such as depression. It can cause a person to struggle with fear and panic attacks, obsessive thoughts, those racing thoughts where you feel like sometimes you just can't shut your mind off. Any type of dysfunctional behaviors or self-sabotaging behaviors. Some people get paranoid. Sometimes people feel paranoid. It depends on the severity of the trauma. Some people have issues with trust. How many people have struggling with trust issues? A lot of times when we get hurt, one of the things that it damages is our ability to trust. We don't know who to trust. And sometimes we don't even trust ourselves because we've made some poor choices, or we may have been led astray or deceived in some way, tricked or deceived. Our reasoning, sometimes we over-reason, and I think that's a way that's a survival mindset that we use to try to protect ourselves too. If I could just figure it all out, cross all my, what they say, dot all my I's and cross all my T's. If I can just figure it all out, then I'll feel safe. Because what it is we want to feel safe. When we've been through traumatic experiences, like I said, we feel powerless. Welcome. Like I said, we feel powerless. So we want to feel safe again. So our mind goes in, or our subconscious mind goes into trying to figure out how do we feel safe again. So if I don't trust, and then if I try to figure it all out, I got to have all the answers. Why, when, where, how, and we're trying to figure it out. So that makes us feel safe. That's the goal, is to make us feel safe. So, but that's our way. That's our way, okay? That's not God's way, but that's our way. We get into blaming. Sometimes we get into blaming. If we could just blame, take the blame off of ourselves. Many of us, we go through these traumatic experiences, and then what we do, let's forget about ourselves right now. What we do is we begin to, we want to know, why did that happen? So one of the first things many of us do, one of the survival mindsets we do from trauma and dysfunction, is we go right into blaming. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's his fault. If only you would change. If you would have did this. If you would not have done that, this would not have happened. So a lot of times we get into blaming. It has to be somebody's fault, right? Anger, we know now how many of us, we can relate to anger. And some of us use anger as a way to survive as well. If I'm angry, then I can get you to back up off of me. Some of us, what we do is we're quick to get angry. Some of us go from 0 to anger just like that. Rage. And sometimes the anger turns into rage. And that's anger on that's anger on a whole new level. I call that anger on a whole new level. That's when people just many times just lose control, and then they do things, and then they later regret it. They react, they get impulsive, and then they like my ex-husband used to, he would take a plate of food and just throw it across the room. You know, or there are times when people actually go into a rage and then they attack people, or they hurt people, or they try to kill people, okay? So it's very important that we learn how to manage our emotions, manage our thoughts, manage our behaviors, because what happens is God will deliver us from some things, and then there's some things he wants us to learn how to control. He wants us to learn how to control and manage those things, because we know that we have feelings. That's right, baby. We know that we have feelings. So God did not create us to be robots. We know that it's important to acknowledge our feelings. So I'm telling you guys now, it's important to acknowledge your feelings. What happens is many of us, and another way of survival is we go numb. Some of us don't realize we're even walking around numb, but we're supposed to feel our feelings. A lot of this is psychological. Some things we don't want to deal with, so immediately our feelings shut down. And for a minute, for a minute, it might help us, or it feel like it's helping us, because depending on the situation, it could be so severe that our body just automatically shuts down. I mean, our emotions just automatically shut down, so we can begin to process what just happened. What did I just hear? Did that just happen? But then at some point, we must give ourselves the permission to feel the anger, feel the sadness, feel the disappointment, feel the feelings of powerlessness, just for the moment, in order to embrace what's going on, in order to embrace the experience and learn how to at the same time love ourselves and take care of ourselves. Please share this program, and please tweet this out, please share this program with your followers and tweet it out. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about denial. For some people, for many of us, we use denial as a way to survive as well. We use denial. I'm not going to look at that. I don't want to deal with that. I remember many years ago, a friend of mine said, "Ramona, don't put your head in the sand." I'm like, don't put my head in the sand? But then when I thought about it, I thought about an animal or ostrich or something. What happens when a person or animal, so they put their head in the sand? They can't see anything. Welcome, Kasika. If the person put their head in the sand, they can't see anything. They don't want to deal with anything. They're not aware of anything because their head is in the sand. So that's an old saying. Hey, sweetie, welcome. Thanks for joining. Please share this with your followers So we're talking today about defeating those mindsets that come from trauma and dysfunction, defeating those and learning how to manage those mindsets, as I said, because God will deliver us from some things, but there's some things that's just a part of being human, our human experience. God wants us to learn how to manage the anger. He wants us to have that self-awareness from behavior when we're acting impatient. He wants us to know, wait a minute, right now I'm being impatient. He doesn't want us to just go around saying, look, I'm impatient. Well, I don't have no patience. We don't need to put that label on ourselves, because patience is part of fruit, or the part of the fruit of the Spirit, and that's something that God wants us to be able to groom ourselves. We need to have patience. We need to accept that we have to have patience. We need to accept that we have to manage our anger. We have to manage the anger. We're human. Sometimes things come up, and many of us who grew up in dysfunction, or we've suffered traumatic experiences, anger is usually one of the first emotions that we feel. Anger. So we have to learn how to not be quick to respond to the anger. React to the anger. We can't react to the anger. We have to process, and we have to make a conscious decision on how we're going to handle this anger that may be present at the moment, right? Because what a lot of people do is they react, and then they do things and they say things, or we have all done some things and said some things out of anger. We can't take those things back. We might want to, but once it's put out there, it's out there. And we all know that you could say something to a person out of anger, and it can stick with them for years. Every now and then something will still pop up in my head that a family member or someone said to me. Now, it's my choice whether I'm going to dwell on it or I'm going to cast down that imagination. Because babysit those thoughts. I'm going to grab that thought and start babysitting it, dwelling on it, in other words. Then I'm feeling like I'm the victim. And then I'm experiencing the experience all over again. Because our central nervous system does not know that we are choosing to focus on something that happened years ago, last week. Our central nervous system does not know that. So we begin to think about things that hurt us, and guess what? Then our energy, our feelings begin to shift, and now we're feeling deceived, or we're feeling angry again. That's why we begin to relive it, Kasika, because our central nervous system doesn't know. So we're thinking about it, and all of a sudden our feelings and our energy, which is our feelings, begin to shift. And now we're feeling sad. We're feeling angry all over again, as if that thing just happened yesterday. But God wants us to learn how to manage our anger. God wants us to learn how to manage it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about denial today. Thank you. Right on time, girl. So I'm going to talk about denial today. Denial is something that many of us use as a way to survive as well, because we don't want to face some things. We don't want to look at some things that we need to take a look at. But what I'm going to do is read from my book. It's called The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie, okay? It's the daily meditations book, okay? So denial is a powerful tool. Never underestimates its ability to cloud your vision. Be aware that for many reasons, we have become experts at using this tool to make reality more tolerable. So we don't want to a lot of times we don't want to face reality, so we go into denial. We have learned well how to stop the pain, and that's what it's about, stopping the pain, and we want to feel safe. It's our way of peace, getting peace. We have learned well how to stop the pain caused by reality. Sometimes reality hurts. That's right, baby. not by changing our circumstances, but by pretending our circumstances are something other than what they are. Do not be too hard on yourself. While one part of you was busy creating a fantasy reality, the other part of you and me went to work on accepting the truth, because God does that for us. God does that for us. He created us that way because really He wants us to be able to live by the truth. So now it is time to find courage. It's time to find courage. Face the truth. Face the truth. Let it sink gently in. Let it sink gently in. Facing the truth. Facing reality. Accepting what happened to you. It happened. When we can do that, we will be moved forward. What does that mean? So when we're able to do that, allowing ourselves to come out of denial, gently accepting reality, accepting the situation, what happened, then we don't feel stuck. Then we're not stuck. Hey, I love Christ. Hi, sweetie. How you doing? Thanks for joining. So what I say is, God, give me the courage and strength to see clearly. We want to be able to see clearly. See things clearly, because the Bible tells us the truth is what sets us free, not denial. Denial does not set us free. The truth sets us free. So when we don't want to accept truth, we end up being stuck. It sort of stunts our growth. It stunts our growth. In 1992, when I decided to finally get some help, I was coming out of denial. I was finally accepting the fact that I could not change my husband. I could not stop him from drinking. I could not stop him from lying and cheating and doing things that, or stop him from trying to kill me again. I could not stop him. And because I didn't want to face denial, hey sweetie, because I wouldn't face it in the beginning, I caused myself a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, a lot of sadness, a lot of depression. Hey, Ramona Speaks. Because I didn't want to face it, because I was in denial about the fact that I could not fix it, that I was not His God. I wasn't trying to be God. I was trying to be God, not knowing that I was acting like God. Because when we're trying to fix people, we're trying to change people. We've made ourselves some type of God in their lives. Even God gives us a free will to make choices on our own. So it took some time for me to finally get to that point and look at my husband and say, you know what? Your life is your life. My life is my life. And the way you choose to live your life, this marriage is not going to work like this. But that's your choice. That's your choice. Because he chose to stay where he was. That's all he knew, was the dysfunction that he grew up in. That's all he knew, was the anger that he had towards his parents. That's all he knew, was the anger that he had towards women before he met me. And he knew I was a good woman, but it was still a part of him trying to protect himself. So he was deceiving himself from time to time, trying to tell himself, well, just maybe she's deceiving me. And what happened was, when he saw that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of waiting up for him at night, wondering who he's with and where he is, if he's even alive, if he's okay. When he saw that I was shifting, that I was coming out of denial, that I was beginning to face reality, one night he came in a rage, one of them quiet, silent rages, where the tears, you sit down and all of a sudden the tears just start coming down, but you don't say nothing and you're just looking at the person. And he just jumped up and tried to strangle me to death. All because denial must have felt real comfortable to him. He did not want to face reality. Denial can be a dangerous thing. Denial can be a dangerous thing. And he didn't want to face his own anger He didn't want to learn how to manage his own anger. He did call himself getting help at one point in the relationship. And then he went right back to he pretty much went back to his old ways. He did what he knew how to do to try to keep me at some point. And it didn't really, let's say it didn't really stick. And then he ended up in an accident and he died later. I'm going to shift it just a little bit. I remember talking about denial. I remember one day I was in a restaurant having lunch and we had an earthquake. Thank God it wasn't real serious, but there was an earthquake. It was not that long ago, maybe 4 years ago. In other words, when I was sitting in that restaurant, I watched as the chandeliers swayed back and forth. The little chandelier swayed back and forth. And I could feel the ground shaking up under me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Because I had been in an earthquake before by the grace of God. It wasn't real serious because I used to live in St. Lucia. Some of you guys know that. I lived in St. Lucia for 6 years. So I know what it's like to experience some form of quake. At least 3 times in my life, I remember that. But anyway, this particular day, I watched people's reaction. I got on the phone. I knew it was an earthquake. I just wanted it to stop, okay? But I stopped. I was like, God drew my attention to the people around me. And you know, the majority of those people pretty much said, there wasn't no earthquake. They went right into denial. Right into denial. Nope, that's not what that was. I even heard somebody say, I think I heard one person say that wasn't no earthquake. Some lady or something. That wasn't no earthquake. Then what was it? Tell me. I should have went over there and said, what was it then? The chandeliers are shaking. You feel the restaurant shaking. What do you think it is? I don't know. But the bottom line is we must be willing to face reality. God wants us to be honest with ourselves. He wants us to be honest about our circumstances. He wants us to be honest about our experiences. Most people, they say, thank you so much for putting that up. Most people, do me a favor, Andrea, and put up the Sister Tribe link, please. bit.ly, join Sister Tribe now. So many of us, we struggle with facing reality because we want to feel safe all the time. I get it. We want to feel safe. Many times because of the trauma we've experienced, we felt like we were not safe. It terrified us. It scared us. Things happened to us that we weren't expecting. We saw things happen to people that traumatized us. So we just want to forget about it all, right? But we have to be, thank you, is it freezing? But we have to be able to take a look. Take a look at things as they are. Face life as it is right now. Take a look at what happened so that we can grow. So that we can know how to manage our emotions when things come up. Because God will deliver us from some things. But there are some things, and that there are some things that are a part of life, a part of our human experiences, a part of who we are as humans, that we must be able to deal with. So God doesn't completely take some things away, but he stays with us to help us to learn to manage the anger, to learn how to manage the thoughts that trigger depression. I struggled with depression for many years. I struggled with anxiety for many years, and even panic attacks from time to time. And God began to show me. God began to show me the parts of my thinking that was triggering that anger again, or triggering those panic attacks. Something that happened that made me feel unsafe. And even if I didn't say anything, in my subconscious mind, I was dwelling on that thing. And I was obsessing, and I was reasoning and trying to figure out, how can I handle this? How can I fix this? God was showing me See those thoughts right there? There were particular thoughts that I was thinking that was causing the depression. So now that I have that awareness, now I'm more prone to personal development. I begin to adopt personal development by taking responsibility for managing my emotions, for managing my thoughts, for being willing to being willing to feel my feelings and say, oh, I know what that is. And if I don't stop thinking like that, I'm going to start getting depressed. If I allow myself to start worrying about some things I know I have no control over, the best thing I can do is pray. If I remind myself that it's not my job to change my kids, fix my children, fix my grandchildren, fix my siblings, my ex-husband, I don't have a husband anymore, but I couldn't fix my husband. Certain things, we have to accept the fact that it is not our job. We don't want to see our loved ones hurt or go through some of the things that we went through, but everyone has their own journey. So we can't go in denial when things come up. We have to accept the fact that this is the way it is. That's what happened. This is what happened to me. So what can I do? Because if that thing is still affecting me, what can I do to help myself? What can I do to take care of myself? How can I keep myself from depression? How can I keep myself from not experiencing panic attacks? And some of it still doesn't go, some of that stuff just doesn't go completely away. What happens is let's just say very rarely do I experience depression anymore. I don't know the last time I had a panic attack. Anxiety, we still, me and anxiety, still kind of, back and forth from time to time because my mind still sometimes gets to trying to figure things out, or I want what I want right now. I think my anxiety sometimes is connected to me being a little impatient. I get a little overwhelmed. And I start thinking about all the things that I think I need to do today. And what it is I don't have to get it all done today. But in my mind, everything all of a sudden is an emergency. You ever feel like that? Like, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get that. And all of a sudden, subconsciously, you start feeling like everything is an emergency. But everything is not an emergency. We are supposed to stay in action, get done whatever we can get done each day. Sometimes it's best to focus on less things, sometimes it's best to do less things, and then you have better focus on those 2 or 3 things that you got done today, instead of trying to do 8 things, to all the things that's on your list. We have to learn to celebrate ourselves. Because many of us who have struggled and suffered from any type of trauma, because we don't feel safe, because sometimes those old feelings of not feeling good enough, we don't celebrate ourselves. So we have to learn to celebrate ourselves. And we have to learn to accept reality. We have to learn that denial does not work. Denial does not work. Denial keeps us stuck. I know people, and denial has made them sick. Do you know it's been said that, I don't know, I guess the scientists did some tests or something, but I remember reading an article one day that said that the way we think is connected to some of the diseases that some of us have. And I think they said denial. Now, I'm just telling you something that I read, okay? I believe they said like denial was connected to diabetes, and they were naming all of these diseases and saying that anger was connected to something else and all of this. But the bottom line is those imbalances in our brain can affect our health. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. So we have to be careful. Sometimes we just sit around and we say, high blood pressure run in the family. high blood pressure running my family too. But I don't have high blood pressure. Well, I believe one reason why I don't have high blood pressure is because, besides the fact that I try to, be mindful of certain things that I consume, and I drink a lot of water, but because I choose to manage denial, I choose to manage my emotions, I choose to allow myself to feel and take responsibility for my feelings. I believe that's one reason why I don't have high blood pressure, because it's all up in my family, and so are some other things all up in my family. And I thank God just for the fact that he didn't let me go. If we're willing to do what God says do, we will see more peace, more joy, and we'll be able to do the things that God calls us to do. God says face it. Whatever it is, face it. I'll face it with you. Just face it. Denial is not an option anymore. It's not an option anymore. It makes us feel stuck. And it deceives us into thinking we know what we're doing, when in reality, what we're doing is avoiding reality. For many years, I avoided reality, and created my own little world in my head. So we have to make sure we're accepting and embracing life as it comes, knowing that God is with us. Okay? I have to wrap it up, guys. I'm Ramona Phillips, your Healthy Mind Strategist. We're defeating trauma on my program, one choice at a time. I'm here every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I love you all. I see your cute little faces down there in the corner. Thank you for joining me. Avoidance and self-protection mode. That's right. We want to protect ourselves. That's right. We want to feel safe. All of these behaviors, all of these mindsets are survival mindsets that come from trauma. That's what it is. Yep. We want to feel safe. We want to feel safe. That's our way of trying to make ourselves feel safe. But that's not God's way, okay? I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining.